If you want to change your results, you have to change what you give your attention to, because attention is the steering wheel of your life. Focus isn't just a productivity trick. It's the organizing principle that turns scattered effort into forward motion. Think of your mind like a lens. When it's unfocused, the light diffuses. Lots of energy, little impact. But when you focus, you concentrate that light into heat. Heat becomes fire. Fire forges outcomes. That's the power we're talking about. Now here's the truth most people miss. Focus begins with subtraction, not addition. The world is screaming for your attention. Apps, alerts, opinions, endless options. You can try to do it all, but that's a negotiation with mediocrity. The highest performers don't ask, "What else can I fit in?" They ask, "What can I remove so the essential becomes inevitable?" Focus is the discipline of saying no. No to the dopamine loop, no to the drama, no to the second best idea. When you cut the noise, what matters becomes audible. Psychologically, what you focus on expands. If you habitually focus on problems, your nervous system will scan for more problems. If you focus on possibilities, you prime your brain to find strategies. That's not a motivational slogan. It's how your reticular activating system works. Your brain filters reality according to the questions you keep asking. So ask better questions, not "Why is this so hard?" but "What is the next controllable action?" Not "What if I fail?" but "What must I learn to win?" Direct your questions and you direct your focus. Direct your focus and you change your state. Change your state and your behavior follows. Philosophically, focus is an act of will. It's choosing a North Star and aligning behavior with it. Most people treat focus like weather. Some days it's sunny, some days it's not. Don't outsource your destiny to the climate. Choose it. Decide what your life is about, and let that decision simplify everything that comes after. The Stoics called this living in accordance with nature. Yours, if your nature is to build, then build. If it's to serve, then serve. If it's to master a craft, then apprentice yourself to the process and allow focus to make you a student of the long game. Practically, focus is a protocol. Start with a singular outcome that actually matters. Define it so clearly you could recognize it in the wild. Increase revenue by 20% by December 31. Run a 10K in under 50 minutes. Publish the first chapter by Friday. Then engineer your environment to protect that outcome. One input, one task, one block of time. Close the tabs. Put the phone in another room. Create a pre-game ritual. 2 minutes of breathing, reviewing the outcome, listing the first 3 actions. You are training your nervous system to associate that ritual with deep work. Over time, it becomes automatic, like tying your shoes before a run. Focus also requires emotional management. Distraction is often a symptom of avoidance. Avoiding the discomfort of uncertainty, the friction of learning, the exposure of being seen trying. When that discomfort rises, don't run, name it. This is uncertainty. This is the edge of my growth. Then replace avoidance with micro-momentum. 5 minutes, 1 paragraph, 1 email, 1 call. Discipline will take the handoff from there. Consistency will keep the ball moving, and resilience will get you back up when you inevitably stumble. Focus is the doorway. Those other qualities are the pillars that keep you inside the room long enough to do something extraordinary. Remember, you don't need more time. You need more intensity per unit of time. 90 minutes of undiluted concentration can outperform a week of scattered busyness. So set a timer, commit to a sprint, and make a promise to yourself you actually keep. Keep it once and your confidence grows. Keep it repeatedly and your identity changes. You stop being someone who hopes and become someone who executes. Choose your target, remove what's in the way, ask better questions, control your state. Start small, go deep, repeat. That's how focus turns from an idea into a habit, and from a habit into a standard. When your focus is clear, your path is simple. When your path is simple, your progress is inevitable. Decide what matters, and make everything else surrender. Discipline is where dreams stop being concepts and start becoming calendars. It's the quiet agreement you make with yourself to show up, especially on the days you don't feel like it. Motivation is weather, discipline is climate. Motivation will come and go, but discipline sets the conditions that make growth predictable. If focus points your energy at what matters most, discipline is the repeated act of honoring that choice. It's not glamorous, it's not loud, but it's the most reliable engine of transformation you will ever own. Let's pull this out of theory and into your nervous system. Discipline is essentially a pattern of self-trust. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your brain updates its model of who you are. It learns, when I say I'll do something, I mean it. That identity shift matters more than any single result, because identity drives behavior long after motivation fades. The opposite is also true. Every time you break your word to yourself, you signal to your nervous system that your commitments are negotiable. Then procrastination isn't just a habit. It becomes a story about who you are. Change the story by keeping the promise, even in the smallest unit of action. Philosophically, discipline is freedom. People think discipline limits choice. In truth, it eliminates noise so you can choose what you actually value. When you say yes to a standard, you're saying no to chaos. The Stoics would call this living by virtue, placing reasoned choice above impulse. The athlete who trains at dawn is not constrained. They are liberated from the tyranny of mood. The writer who drafts daily isn't imprisoned by routine. They're free from the anxiety of waiting for inspiration. Freedom isn't doing whatever you feel like. Freedom is doing what you decide consistently. Psychologically, discipline works because it reduces friction. The more steps between intention and action, the more chances your brain has to negotiate with comfort. Remove the steps. Lay your workout clothes out the night before. Pre-commit your writing time on the calendar. Automate the decision so the only choice left is start. Once you start, momentum carries you further than you think. This is why micro-commitments are powerful. 5 minutes to begin, 1 paragraph to write, 1 call to make. The point isn't the size, the point is the pattern. You are training yourself to initiate. Here's the part people resist. Discipline requires boundaries with your future self. The future self is a master negotiator. I'll do it later. I worked hard yesterday. I deserve a break. Empathize with that voice. It's trying to protect your energy. Then give it a better job. We rest after we deliver. Create bright lines that are not up for debate. Non-negotiables. For example, I train 4 days a week. I write 500 words before checking messages. I don't miss family dinner. Non-negotiables shrink decision fatigue and amplify integrity. The rule isn't there to punish you. It's there to protect the version of you you're becoming. Discipline also has a relationship with emotion that most people misunderstand. You don't need to feel disciplined to act with discipline. Action can lead, and emotion can follow. When you act first, your state catches up. This is the power of rituals. A short pre-game routine, 2 deep breaths, review your outcome, choose the first action. Can anchor your body and mind to execution, regardless of mood. Over time, your ritual becomes a switch. Flip it, and your system enters go mode. And yes, you will miss, you'll slip, skip, fall short. Discipline doesn't demand perfection, it demands recommitment. The only unacceptable outcome is staying down. Build a recovery protocol, acknowledge the miss without drama, identify the trigger, reinstall the next action, and get back in rhythm within 24 hours. That's what professionals do differently. They recover faster. The comeback is part of the plan. Tie this back to focus and forward to resilience and consistency. Focus chooses the target. Discipline moves the feet. Resilience keeps you moving when resistance shows up. Consistency compounds the gains. This is how goals become reality, not by waiting for the perfect day, but by creating a dependable day and repeating it. You don't have to conquer the mountain tonight. You just have to take the step you said you would take today. Make one promise you'll keep before the sun sets, then keep it. That's how ordinary days become extraordinary lives. Keep your word, especially to yourself. Pressure doesn't create weakness. It reveals where we haven't trained yet. When life squeezes you deadlines, rejection, uncertainty, your nervous system goes hunting for a pattern. If your pattern is avoidance, you'll retreat. If your pattern is resilience, you'll adapt. That's good news because patterns can be built. Resilience isn't a gift some people are born with. It's a skill you install, repetition by repetition, the same way you built focus and discipline. Start with how you interpret stress. Two people feel the same elevated heartbeat. One calls it anxiety and spirals, the other calls it readiness and performs. The physiology can be identical, the meaning is different. That meaning is your leverage point. When pressure spikes, run a simple script. Name it, normalize it, navigate it. Name it, this is stress, this is uncertainty. Normalizing takes the shame out of the experience. Stress is energy preparing me to respond. Navigate by choosing one controllable action, one call, one paragraph, one rep. Direction converts agitation into momentum. Philosophically, resilience is choosing to be larger than your circumstances. The Stoics called it the dichotomy of control. What's up to you, what's not. Put your attention on what is yours. Your decisions, your effort, your preparation. Let go of the rest without apathy, but with respect for reality. That posture is not passivity, it's power, because it concentrates your force where it matters. You stop negotiating with the weather and start steering the ship. Psychologically, resilience is the choreography of state, story, and strategy. State first, regulate your system. 3 slow breaths through the nose, longer on the exhale, will bring your heart rate down and return blood flow to your prefrontal cortex, the part that solves complex problems. Story next. The question you ask shapes the narrative you live. Instead of why is this happening to me, ask what is this training in me. Strategy last. Identify the smallest high-quality action that will move reality 1 inch forward and perform it now. State resets the body, story directs the mind, strategy moves the feet. Under pressure, your identity wants proof. Give it evidence. Create a resilience ledger. Every time you face something difficult and act anyway, record it. Presented to the executive team, heart racing. Delivered clearly. Ran when it rained. Had the hard conversation without delay. Review this ledger before heist. Takes moments. You're reminding your nervous system who you already are. Confidence isn't a mood, it's a memory of your competence. Here's a reframe that changes the game. Don't aim to bounce back, aim to bounce forward. Fragile systems break under stress. Robust systems resist stress. Antifragile systems get better because of stress. Choose antifragility, expose yourself, deliberately and progressively, to controlled challenge, cold shower for 60 seconds, present to a small group. Take a tougher workout, publish the draft you've been hiding. Each exposure signals we can handle more. Skill expands at the edges of discomfort. Resilience is how long you can stand there with your standards intact. Recovery is not the opposite of resilience, it's part of it. A fatigued mind makes small problems look big. Protect your sleep like a mission, critical asset. Build micro, recoveries into the day. 5 minutes of stillness, a short walk, a quick journal entry to offload mental clutter. Gratitude and perspective are recovery tools too. List 3 things going right and acknowledge the strength you're demonstrating by showing up. You're not escaping the fight, you're sharpening the blade. Tie this back to focus and discipline. Focus selects the priority under pressure. Discipline executes the next behavior, even with noise and doubt. Resilience is the capacity to keep choosing both when conditions are not ideal, which is most of life. Make it practical. Create a 2-line crisis plan. Line 1. When I feel pressure, I breathe, name it, and choose one controllable action. Line 2. After I act, I review what I learned and adjust. That's how setbacks become systems training you for bigger arenas. Pressure is a proving ground, not a prison. Treat it like practice for the person you are becoming. Choose to be larger than what you face. Distraction is the tax we pay for convenience, and too often we accept the bill without reading it. If focus is the lens and discipline is the ritual, then eliminating distractions is the architecture that holds both steady. It's not enough to want to do deep work. You must engineer a life where deep work is the path of least resistance. That begins with an audit, honest, unsparing, practical. Track where your attention goes for 3 days. Don't judge, just observe. You'll find patterns. The scroll after lunch, the 5-minute break. That becomes 40, the meetings that could have been emails. Awareness is the first lever of change. Once you know where the leaks are, you can plug them. The principle is simple. Reduce friction for what you want, increase friction for what you don't. If you want to write, make writing easier than distraction. Place your notebook and pen on the table. Close the browser tabs that are sirens. If your phone is the problem, make it inconvenient. Airplane mode, another room, a drawer with a timer. For things that pull you toward low value busyness, add a small step. Require 3 minutes of hesitation before opening the app. That extra friction is often enough for your prefrontal cortex to choose the higher value action. There's a philosophical truth here. Attention is sovereignty. To whom you give your attention is who you become. If your day is ceded to other people's agendas, news cycles, and the endless promise of novelty, you will not grow into a focused adult. You will remain a reactive child of stimulation. Choose sovereignty. Decide what deserves your attention because it aligns with your North Star, not because it's loud or urgent. Urgency wins attention by default. Importance must be defended. Digital minimalism is not asceticism, it's strategy. Curate your inputs the way a museum curates its collection. Not everything that arrives at your doorstep is worthy of hanging on your walls. Unfollow, unsubscribe, mute. Reduce the sources that demand a dopamine hit and replace them with sources that demand depth. Set specific times to consume information. News at 6:00 p.m. Social media for 20 minutes after dinner, so you control consumption instead of it controlling you. When you choose a slower intake, your mind has room to incubate ideas instead of always reacting. Guard your energy as fiercely as your time. Some distractions are not external, they are internal states. Anxiety, boredom, loneliness. Meet those honestly. If you're reaching for your phone because you're avoiding uncomfortable feeling, address the feeling. Use micro practices, 2 minutes of breath work, a short walk, a note in your journal. Emotional awareness reduces the power of internal distractions and returns you to the task with clarity rather than escape. Design your environment to be an ally, not an adversary. The desk that invites clutter invites procrastination. The room with one clear workstation and minimal visual noise invites concentration. Use lighting, posture, and a simple pre-work ritual to cue your nervous system. A glass of water, a deep breath, a glance at the outcome. Rituals standardize the start of deep work so you don't negotiate with motivation each time. Social boundaries are equally important. Not every relationship requires access to your calendar or your attention at every hour. Teach people how to treat you by what you accept. Set expectation windows. I answer work messages between 9-11 and 4-5. Make family agreements for focus time. The easier you make it for others to respect your focus, the more likely they will. Finally, replace, don't just remove. Telling your brain no without giving it yes is a setup for relapse. If you eliminate doom scrolling, replace it with a 5-minute walk, a short call to someone who lifts you, or a deliberate breathing break. When distraction arrives, have a practiced alternative. The economy of attention is relentless, but you are not helpless. Build the architecture, design the rituals, and train your inner steward. Small environmental choices compound into a character that defaults to depth rather than diversion. Control the little things and the big things will follow. Protect your attention like the capital it is. Invest it in what compounds. Execution is not a one-time heroic act. It's a pattern you design into your life. You can have brilliant ideas, unshakable focus, and iron discipline, but without consistent execution, those strengths are like a well-tuned engine with no road to drive on. Consistency is the lever that turns repeated actions into permanent change. It is the arithmetic of progress. Small inputs repeated yield exponential outcomes. Think of it as compound interest for character. The math is boring, the results are astonishing. Start with the psychology. Human beings overvalue intensity and undervalue frequency. We romanticize the marathon and ignore the daily walk. Yet it's the walk that builds the capacity to run the marathon. Why? Because our brains and bodies learn through repetition. Each repetition stores not just muscle memory, but identity evidence. You don't become a writer by waiting for inspiration. You become one by showing up and producing words again and again, until your nervous system learns you are the kind of person who writes. Identity lags behavior until behavior becomes so regular it rewires belief. Philosophically, consistent execution is a moral architecture. It's the decision to honor your commitments to a future self. When you do the small things you promised to do today, you are building a covenant with who you will become tomorrow. That covenant is powerful because it collapses ambiguity. Instead of asking whether you feel like it, you ask whether you keep your agreements. That shift turns desire into destiny, make execution procedural, break outcomes into the smallest repeatable units that still matter. Want to finish a book? Commit to 300 words a day. Want to build strength? Commit to 3 focused workouts a week. The trick isn't to find a gargantuan block of time, it's to establish a pattern so friction is minimized. The fewer choices required to start, the more reliably you will. Ritualize the start, a 5-minute setup, a specific playlist, a posture, a 2 breath centering. Rituals change the decision from should I to I do. Measure what matters, but keep it simple. Complexity kills repetition. A single daily metric, words written, sales calls, minutes of practice serves as your fidelity gauge. Track it visually. A calendar with an X is a surprisingly strong psychological device. It is not vanity, it is feedback. Feedback tells you whether your system is working. When you miss, investigate without drama. Was the goal realistic? Was the environment hostile? Did you lack recovery? Fix the system, not your willpower. Iteration matters more than perfection. Execution is a loop. Plan, act, measure, tweak, repeat. The fastest way to improve is not to wait for perfect technique. It's to get into the feedback cycle and refine. Professionals ship rough drafts, learn, and ship again. Amateurism is characterized by endless polishing before action. Replace it with disciplined iteration. Each cycle expands competence and reduces fear, because the unknown becomes known. Accountability amplifies consistency. Public commitments leverage social energy to keep you honest. Tell one person your plan, not to grandstand, but to create a living mirror. Better yet, build a cadence of review with someone who cares and can give you reality. Weekly check-ins, brief progress messages, a shared scoreboard. When your commitments matter to others, your internal negotiation loses power. Respect recovery as part of execution. You cannot sustain intensity without rhythm. Sleep, nutrition, micro breaks, and emotional replenishment are not indulgences. They are inputs to execution capacity. Without recovery, your repetition becomes brittle and mistakes compound. Plan for seasonality, phases of push and phases of deliberate rest, and you will sustain higher levels for longer. Finally, make the smallest possible promise to yourself and keep it. Keep it once, and you earn a deposit of trust. Keep it again, and it becomes habit. Keep it enough, and identity shifts. The path to mastery is not a straight line. It is a pattern of daily commitments, refined through feedback, protected by ritual, and fueled by recovery. That is how ideas become industries, how goals become portfolios of behavior, and how ordinary people become unstoppable forces. Do the smallest thing you can commit to today, and then do it again tomorrow. That repetition will carry you further than a single act of will ever could. Being unstoppable is less about having superhuman talent and more about cultivating a set of habits and truths that make quitting irrational. Unstoppable people are not immune to fear, fatigue, or failure. They simply create systems that allow them to move forward despite those forces. That's the core distinction. It's not absence of difficulty. It's the presence of practices that convert difficulty into fuel. When you combine focused attention, deliberate discipline, hardened resilience, a distraction, proof environment, and relentless execution, you are no longer fragile. You become a process, reliable, repeatable, and difficult to derail. Start with the inner architecture. Unstoppability is a posture of identity. Most people chase goals as if success is a destination. The truly unstoppable adopt an identity first. I am someone who finishes what I start. I am someone who learns faster than they fear. I am someone who serves at scale. Identity is not a slogan, it's the operating system that selects actions without negotiation. When your identity aligns with your highest aspirations, your decisions become automatic because they are congruent with who you already believe you are. That's why we train the small things, because they become evidence for the larger story. Next, reinforce structure with redundancy. Systems that are single point of failure create fragile victory. The Unstoppable build backups, alternative plans, diversified skills, multiple income streams, regular recovery routines. Redundancy is not wasteful, it's strategic. It allows you to absorb shocks without derailing the mission. When one channel fails, another sustains momentum. Make your career, health, and relationships resilient by not depending everything on a single variable. Redundancy preserves your ability to act. Emotional mastery is another pillar. You will face moments when your body says stop, and your mind wants to stop. The difference between those who persist and those who quit is often a single practice step. Name the emotion, breathe into it, and choose the next small action. Don't mistake intensity for truth. Feelings are data, not directives. Train yourself to use them diagnostically. This is fatigue, I need rest. Or this is fear, I need a small exposure to build competence. Turning emotion into information preserves momentum without ignoring legitimate limits. Culture matters. Surround yourself with people who enforce the standards you aspire to. You become the average of the 5 closest people you spend time with, not in a mystical way, but in a behavioral and normative way. Establish a circle that asks for evidence, that celebrates effort, that tolerates honesty and intolerance for excuses. Culture amplifies consistency. It turns individual habits into collective reinforcement. If you want to be unstoppable, don't attempt it in a vacuum. Curate your environment and your tribe. Decision velocity is a practical lever. Unstoppability demands fast, high-quality decisions. Paralysis by analysis is the enemy of momentum. Create decision rules that compress judgment. Principles you apply automatically when speed matters. When stakes are lower, default to experimentation. When stakes are high, rely on core principles and chosen advisors. The faster you decide and act, the more feedback you receive, and feedback is the raw material of growth. Finally, view setbacks as tuition, not punishment. Every obstacle is an enrollment fee for the next level of competency. When you reframe failure as data and tuition, you stop personalizing loss and start extracting curriculum. Keep a resilience ledger. Document what failed, why, and the next experiment. That discipline converts pain into preparation and means every fall advances you in the school of mastery. All of these elements create a compound effect. Focus narrows your aim, discipline powers the repetition, resilience lets you persist under strain, a distraction. Proof environment protects your bandwidth. Execution turns intention into output. Put them together, and you've built a machine that doesn't rely on mood or external approval. It relies on systems, identity, and practice. You won't feel unstoppable every morning, and that's fine. The point is that you have arranged your life so that even when you feel small, your habits are large enough to carry you. Unstoppability is not a dramatic event. It is the quiet multiplication of choices made reliably over time. Decide who you will be, build the systems to support that decision, and then refuse to negotiate with excuses.